Hey guys, welcome back to the Hollercast, a show produced by the Holler Creative out of Corbin, Kentucky, whose mission is to bring hope and opportunity to the Appalachian region. We've got a great episode for you today. Our guest is Jonathan Webb, the founder and CEO of AppHarvest. AppHarvest, which has raised more than $100 million in funding, is building some of the largest indoor farms in the world, combining conventional agriculture techniques with today's technology to grow non-GMO, chemical-free produce to be sold to the top 25 U.S. grocers. But we'll hear more about AppHarvest and all the stuff they're doing in a second. I'm excited for you guys to hear Jonathan's story and the AppHarvest story and all the things that they're doing to bring hope and opportunity to Appalachia. So buckle your seatbelts and enjoy the ride. Thanks, guys. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hollercast. I'm your host, James Schweitzer, and today on the show we have Jonathan Webb, the founder and CEO of AppHarvest. Jonathan, how's it going?
It's going well, James. Thank you for having me, and appreciate the podcast you're doing here and the work you're highlighting in the region. It's important.
Yeah, thank you. That's cool to hear. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on here. So the first question that we ask all of our guests is, what is your go-to gas station snack and drink?
I love it. That's a great question. I have heard it on some of your with some of your previous guests. Mm-hmm. So I drink a lot of water. So I'm always grabbing water, and then some nuts. I'm a go-to nuts person. Get some nuts where I can. But the encouraging thing, and obviously a little biased given the work at AppHarvest, but somebody that firmly believes that there needs to be more access to fresh, affordable, healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables, and it's encouraging to see that there's starting to be more fruit options in a gas station. But hopefully this time next year and in the years to come, we'll start to see good, fresh vegetables from Appalachia and some of these gas stations in rural areas. But for right now, it's grab a water and get some nuts. But hopefully here soon we can be grabbing more fruits and veggies in gas stations.
Heck yeah, brother. Grown right here.
Yep.
So I'm super excited to hear more of the AppHarvest story and all the things you guys are doing. And I already talked a little bit about what you do in the intro I recorded. But before that, I'd like to hear a little bit more of your story. So what's your background and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up in Kentucky. I grew up in the central part of the state, in and around the Lexington area. I have one sister who married a gentleman from Pikeville. Okay. So started spending more time there, and for Thanksgiving, have holiday gatherings with the Pike County contingent. Mm-hmm. But then I have a grandmother from Whitley County, and we didn't talk about it a whole lot growing up, but she's a woman that I greatly admired and one of my biggest influences. And as I heard more and more about her upbringing, it became something that I understood was pretty common, not just to her, but many people in the region. And growing up in Whitley County, she had a father who passed away when she was years of age of a coal mining accident. And that put her and her sisters in a very challenging situation.
Yeah, I bet.
And hearing that story and seeing what's happened to the eastern part of our state, just an affinity for the region and the eastern part of our state, and really the tenacity and ingenuity that it's taken to drive the coal industry for decades. It's I've tried to say it's not really coal alone that powered this country. It's the people of our region, and so really wanting to work with people in our region has been really something core to me since I got out of undergrad. I went to the University of Kentucky, and when I got out, I really wanted to stay here and work on projects, but I was unable to do that at the time.
Yeah.
I ended up moving to New York, spent some time in New York and D.C. before moving back to Kentucky, and was a part of building some of the largest solar projects in the southeast of the U.S. So that experience, large-scale, sustainable project development, was doing it outside of Kentucky, down in Georgia at the time. We built on Army installations, about 750 acres of solar at Fort Benning, Fort Stewart, and Fort Gordon down in Georgia. But taking that experience and wanting to come back to the state to build large-scale, sustainable projects and moving from energy over to agriculture is where we've landed with AppHarvest. But couldn't be, more thrilled to be back in the region and just to see the brilliant minds all across our state, and especially in the eastern part of the state, and being able to work with folks on this project. You can build projects anywhere in the world, but our investors firmly believe that the place we're doing it is incredibly unique, and it's going to give us an advantage in the long run to have communities that really want to dig in and drive a new industry with us. So it's been a bit of a journey and a whirlwind. I could talk at length about what those 10 years looked like before coming back to Kentucky, but glad to be back here and working with community partners across the eastern half of our state.
For sure. Going back to kind of how coal has been like in your family and affects your upbringing, I watched a video of a talk that you had a couple years ago. You mentioned the language, the war on coal, that's often heard. You synthesize that down and you're like, we're saying this is just a war on a rock. And it's easy to fight a war on a rock, but it's much harder to look someone in the eye and fight a war on the community that's supported by the rock, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm just the type of person where I think we all have a lot more in common than we have in differences. And
for sure,
when I moved to New York, I knew nothing about New York City. I have parents who both have afforded me an incredible childhood, but they both have high school degrees, and we didn't travel out of the country, and we didn't travel a whole ton growing up. So I was in New York City, caught flat-footed on being kind of in a cultural shock there, and what I found is people in Harlem or people in Brooklyn, they feel in many ways the same way we do here in our state, which is they want to have good jobs, and they want to have a family that has access to good education and a path forward in life. And I think the frustrating thing I saw in 10 years working in the wind and solar industry is that there's these disparaging comments about the coal industry, and we don't give the people in the region credit.
Right.
Modern civilization in America, we are where we are because we were able to have access to low-cost, abundant, affordable energy, and much of that came through the coal industry. And sure, people can talk about the challenges of the industry, and I'm someone deeply committed to all things environment and climate and sustainable,
right.
But I also try to take a realistic viewpoint that it's easy for people to sit in a penthouse in New York or DC or LA and talk about the coal industry and this material that's in the earth, and talk about how that's the war on coal, but that's not it. It's the policies and the redirection has deep, long-lasting implications on the communities that had to be supported off of that industry. And the frustrating thing with me is, many people in that environmental world, they're brilliant, they're compassionate, they're empathetic, and I wish they would have just gotten at the table with people in the coal industry and started to think of how do we write a storybook of the future together instead of this divisive war back and forth. And I don't think it worked for anybody. I don't think it worked for the coal industry. I don't think it worked for the communities of people that needed that industry to be able to sustain their communities. I don't think it's worked in the environmental world. I think many would say, they could have gone about it differently, but, we can't rewrite the past. We are where we are. But critically important that we find common ground and we figure out how to work together on building a future that is resilient in every way of the word. I try to move away from the word sustainable and just talk about resiliency. Having economies that'll be here for decades to come, using resources that'll be here for decades to come, and creating companies that care about the place in which they're operating in. So I do think that divisive language that was used in the war on coal was hurtful and harmful to a lot of different folks, and frankly unnecessary. And hopefully, more people can get at the table and have discussions, and we'll all realize we're working towards the same thing here. We want a good future for our families, not only in the eastern half of our state in Kentucky, but we want a good future for families across the country, and we can get there by working together to write what that looks like instead of just sitting on the opposite sides of the aisle and trying to throw disparaging comments back and forth. So I am hopeful that we can find a path forward. But it was, being in New York and DC and hearing this stuff for about 10 years, it was hard. It was hard, and that's why in late 2016, that's why I decided to throw my hat in the ring and come back. Yeah. And it's been extremely, extremely rewarding to just meet all the wonderful people I've met over the course of the last 3 years, and look forward to continuing to build those relationships here in our region.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what is AppHarvest, and what do you guys do?
Great question. So I try to say AppHarvest, we're not just a greenhouse. We're not building just facilities. AppHarvest at its core is working to develop an overall ecosystem to drive indoor sustainable agriculture. So obviously a core part of that is building our large-scale facilities. We have our first facility under construction in Moorhead, Kentucky. It's a 60-acre under-glass facility that will operate year-round in Rowan County. It'll be one of the largest indoor agriculture facilities in the world, using software, sensors, lighting, in order to get maximum efficiency. So we anticipate doing about 30 times yield per acre. So we're going to grow tomatoes, and we'll get about 30 times X per acre on what outdoor tomato production is able to do. But we'll do that with 90% less water. So in this world where we're moving towards water as a precious resource and something that we need to use use in moderation, we're able to get the water directly to the root through a hydroponic system. And then we will not use chemical pesticides. We'll use integrated pest management, so using good pest to kill off the bad pest. So our large-scale facilities are going to be core to our operation. And we're competing, and we've tried to say we're not competing with any farmers here in the region. Our competition is really 2,000 miles or even 3,000 miles in the other direction. Right. We've seen produce imports nearly triple coming from south of our border. So about 1.2 billion pounds of tomatoes were imported from Mexico last year. About 1.2 billion pounds were imported from Mexico about 10 years ago. That was 4 billion pounds last year. So we saw tomato imports nearly triple just from Mexico. So AppHarvest is looking to bring that production back home to the U.S., bring it more regional to where we're building these facilities, we can get to about 70% of the U.S. population in a one-day drive. Whereas the stuff being imported from Mexico is sitting 5, 6, 7, 8 days on a semi-truck to get to major markets. So we'll be able to grow in eastern Kentucky and then distribute up to Detroit, down to Atlanta, over to St. Louis, over to Washington, D.C., all in a day drive. But then beyond that, in order to drive this industry, we are a registered benefit corporation, and we have our B Corp certification. Our mission is very critical to our overall thesis as a company. And for us, we think investing in education early, and we've made an investment at Shelby Valley High School, where we have a container farm and an indoor grow operation. We're taking 5 different universities in Kentucky over to the Netherlands with us, which is really the ag tech capital of the world. And we're trying to open source the information, get it to our universities, get it to community colleges, get it to high schools. So again, we can build this overall ecosystem of what does farming of the future look like. It's very technology focused, with precision agriculture technology, and getting kids and young people interested and excited about farming. American Farmland Trust is a group in D.C. that represents some of the largest blocks of farmers in the U.S. They've said their tagline, no farms, no food. We've lost a connection to food in this country and really around the world. And if you go to a high school and you ask a young person, what do you want to do when you grow up? They'll name 5 things, maybe a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. Maybe I want to play basketball. Virtually no one is saying I want to go into farming. We've got to change that. We've got to get young people excited and show career paths in farming. and that's where AppHarvest, we've got a big mountain to climb on that, and not only building the facility is core to our operation, and we're building that first facility in Moorhead, but really having that overall ecosystem of people who want to drive this industry forward with us is going to be critical, and it's a tall task, but folks can try to read about us online and gather a little bit more for what I wasn't able to describe there.
Hey, Ford here from Holler Hustle. Just wanted to let you know about a feature we have on the site that allows you to sign up for daily emails so you can get fresh marketing news right into your inbox every weekday morning. To subscribe, check out hollerhustle.com. Thank you.
So, speaking of that giant facility you guys are putting up in Moorhead, for a couple years, it's really just been like models and 3D renderings and things that you've been looking at and showing people. What has it been like seeing the progress being made? Because I've seen some pictures of that, and that looks awesome.
Well, it's a testament to our region, the tenacity, the ingenuity, the grit that drove that coal industry is something that has 100% been the reality. That is what has been helped to bring this vision to reality. This is a large project, one of the largest projects in the world by footprint. And on any other timeline, it sounds like, yes, we've been talking about it for 18 months, 24 months, and making a lot of noise about it.
Right.
But for a project of this size to come together as rapidly as it did is fairly unprecedented. Yeah. We had the New York Times that came to our farm in Morehead. They've covered some of the largest projects in the world, Shell, just large projects. They were astonished by the community support, the community leaders that drove this project forward with us. So it has taken a lot of time to get to this point, but the hurdles that we were able to jump over to design this project and get it under construction is a real testament to the region. And as far as seeing this physically come out of the ground, you can't rip me off that farm. I got an RV and put it on the farm. I was sleeping awesome. There. We were running construction at night. So before winter, we had great weather. So we had 2 10-hour shifts running a day where we were running construction equipment all at night. I think it's the first greenhouse project in the world that's ran construction almost 24 hours a day. Again, a testament to the region. The excitement on that farm, you can feel it, and it's hard to get me off of it sometimes. So as far as how do I personally feel, I can't even put it into words, but it's been incredible to see all the cross collaboration with people in Eastern Kentucky, working with some of the best minds in the world at both Phillips on the lighting, with our construction partners in the Netherlands. I was on a plane back to Kentucky about a month or two ago, and there were probably 15 people on the plane that were coming in from all around the world to go have a meeting in Moorhead, Kentucky. We had people from Holland, we had people from Germany, we had people from Canada, people from all across the U.S. that were coming into our construction meeting in Moorhead, Kentucky. So that excitement is not just on the ground in Eastern Kentucky, but it's resonating out of the region. And we're hoping that this is really just the start of something larger where we continue to see this influx of people come into the region. And later this week, the government of the Netherlands will be sending 4 people here to visit. We're taking them for 2 days to show them throughout Eastern Kentucky what we've been able to see firsthand. And we're trying to convince other industry players and countries that see this sector as a focus. We're trying to say, hey, this is the flag in the ground. If you want to open a company or you want to be in this industry, then you want to do it here in Eastern Kentucky. So, it's exciting what's happening on the farm in Moorhead, and it's really hard to leave at times. It's remarkable seeing it come out of the ground.
Yeah, that's so awesome and encouraging to hear that such large-scale things are happening right here in this region. Okay, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so we will do the closing question that we've also been asking everyone. That closing question is, what is something new that you've tried recently, whether it's personally, professionally, educationally, etc., whatever it is? So what's something new you've tried recently, and how has that been going, or how did it go?
Well, I'd say two things here. So I'm running an ag tech company.
Right.
And the contrary thing to hear is to think, well, we're supposed to be infused in technology at all times. Mm-hmm. I've found that I have gotten more done and more accomplished by using technology when I need it, mm-hmm. but not letting the technology use me. And I think a lot of us can be victims of our device at times and get wrapped into those. But 100%. Being in Moorhead and just unplugging from my phone at times and focusing on the task at hand and then going back to my devices mm-hmm.
has
been something that has worked incredibly well. And then also, I mentioned it a little earlier, but I got an RV and I started staying on this farm in Morehead, back
mm-hmm.
to the unplugging to be able to focus.
Yeah.
It's been incredible. I would probably venture to guess I'm one of the few tech founders that has taking my phone and turning it off and sitting with a notepad in an RV in a rural county to be able to brainstorm and go through my thoughts. But I think it's something we need to all be cognizant of, that the technology is moving so fast and furious in our world that sometimes it's good to take a step back and make sure we're using the technology for our benefit, but not the other way around. And it's been helpful. I've gotten to be a little bit more focused at times. And again, I'm trying to make the case to anybody in San Francisco or New York or Boston. You don't need to just run a tech company from a big city. You can do it here in rural Eastern Kentucky.
For sure.
And I think what we're doing is hopefully a little bit of a showpiece for that. But unplugging from technology at times has been something I've tried to build into my routine.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't picture Zuckerberg going in an RV with a notepad very often.
No, I don't think many of the folks in San Francisco would, but who knows? Let's keep inviting them, and let's see who shows up to Morehead. So we've got the invite list long and deep. Trust me, anybody that wants to come. So including you and some of your listeners, go to our website if you're interested. But we'd love to have your podcast out on the farm sometime. So hopefully when it warms up, we can take you out for a visit and show you what we're working on.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Whip up some fresh salsa while we're there.
Absolutely. There'll be this time next year. We're gonna have millions of pounds of tomatoes flooding out of Moorhead on a monthly basis. Yeah. So there'll be a lot of tomatoes. Good pasta sauce. Make a good marinara. As long as you like a tomato, we'll find a place to put it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jonathan. That's all the time we have. So thank you, Jonathan, so much for being on the Hollercast.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate the work you're doing.
And thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Hollercast.